Hello, everybody. This is my intro to ethics paper on cultural relativism. Many people would agree that killing an infant is a bad thing. However, this isn't the case for traditional Eskimo societies. If a baby is born in a time where the tribe is suffering from harsh conditions and are not able to hunt for food, then they make the collective decision to kill the baby. They do this because caring for a newborn requires a lot of resources, and keeping the baby alive would only hurt the tribe. This is an example of why cultural relativism should not be used to make moral decisions. The theory of cultural relativism is not a good way to make moral decisions via the matrix. For a theory to pass through the matrix, it must serve as a guide, be based in logic and reason, and properly take others into account. Cultural relativism does serve as a guide for people, but it is not based on logic and reason. It is just the way people live their lives based on how other people around them live. It is based on beliefs and traditions that were passed down to them, and there is nothing logical about that. Cultural relativism also does not properly take others into account. Besides not passing through the matrix, cultural relativism has several flaws, including committing the is ought fallacy and conflicting morality, to be used as a workable theory to make moral decisions. The first reason that cultural relativism should not be used to make moral decisions is that the theory commits the is ought fallacy. The is ought fallacy assumes that just because things are a certain way, they ought to be that way. Just like CR not passing through the matrix because of lack of logic and reason, there is no logical reasoning connecting facts with ethical decision making in the is ought fallacy. When any argument is proven to be a fallacy, it loses its validity for persuasion. An example of this would be speeding on the highway. If everyone else is speeding on the highway, it must be okay to do so. This simply isn't true. Speed limits are put in place for several logical reasons. They keep people safe and they help regulate the flow of traffic. Just because other people are speeding on the highway doesn't make it okay to do so. Another reason that cultural relativism shouldn't be used to make moral decisions is conflicting morality. Conflicting morality means that one morality must be better than the other. An example of this would be in the US, we have come a long ways regarding same sex relationships in marriage. It is no longer frowned upon and is legal in all 50 states. According to a map of countries that criminalize LGBT people, it is shown that in Saudi Arabia, same sex relationships are not allowed, and anyone who is found guilty of same sex acts could face the death penalty. These are extreme differences in morals between countries, and in this case, the United States' position on same sex marriage is right, and Saudi Arabia's is wrong. In this example, we can see how diverse opinions and mindsets have led the US to be more progressive. Someone arguing for cultural relativism as a good way to make moral decisions could say that generally we should tolerate cultural differences. There are so many small differences between cultures that don't drastically change the people live, so it is easy to accept those. An example of this would be small talk. Americans, for some reason, always feel like small talk is appropriate to fill a void. This isn't the case in a country such as Norway. Norwegians value silence and don't feel the need to have what they would see as pointless small talk about the weather or something to fill a similar void. A small cultural difference such as small talk is easily tolerated by most people. The refutation to this idea would be that we shouldn't always tolerate cultural differences. An example of a cultural difference that shouldn't be tolerated is women being forced to cover up with a burqa in Afghanistan. They are forced to wear burqas because men wouldn't be able to stop themselves from raping them if they weren't covered. There is no logic in this cultural practice. The men should be able to control their sexual urges or not be so impulsive to rape a woman just by the sight of her skin. Men all over the world do not have a problem like the men in Afghanistan do in regard to seeing a woman's skin. This example shows how a cultural practice that isn't based in logic promotes bad behavior. The women in Afghanistan continue to suffer, live in fear, and be oppressed because of this. Another argument for cultural relativism as a good way to make moral decisions is that diversity is a good thing to have throughout society. People of different cultures have different ideas and come up with different solutions to problems that arise from adversity. These diverse opinions are assets to the evolution of our species. An example of diverse opinions arising from adversity could be the use of mustard gas. Germans used mustard gas as a chemical weapon in World War I. It had devastating effects on Allied troops and became one of the most feared weapons used by the Germans. After the war ended, medical researchers noticed that the gas destroyed lymphatic tissue and bone marrow. So they had the idea that it might also be able to kill cancer cells and lymph nodes. With the fear of the Germans using the weapon on them again when they entered the Second World War in 1942, the U.S. government asked institutions around the country to study it. Upon further research, it was discovered that nitrogen mustard, which was derived from the gas, could be used to treat tumors. The first cancer patient was treated with nitrogen mustard in 1942, and this nitrogen mustard, with some further research and development, would be the beginning of what we now know as chemotherapy. This discovery was a massive win for the field of oncology and shows that through adversity, different cultures can have different ideas and solutions to problems that benefit everyone. The refute to World War I and mustard gas leading to chemotherapy and being a good thing for mankind would be that the atrocities that were committed and the lives that were lost could never be justified. Approximately 8.5 million soldiers and an estimated 13 million civilians died as a result of the war. The majority of soldier casualties were from artillery, small arms, and poison gas. Civilian casualties were caused by starvation, disease, and military encounters. Tens of millions of people lost their lives from the war, and countless more suffered. Even though there were some inventions and benefits to mankind due to the adverse circumstances caused by the war, cultural relativism could never be accepted as a theory to make good moral decisions because of it. Using cultural relativism as a way to make moral decisions is not a good idea. Cultural relativism does not pass through the matrix as a workable theory. Even though it can serve as a guide, it is not based in logic and reason and doesn't properly take others into account. The fact that cultural relativism commits the is-ought fallacy completely dismisses it as a workable theory and elaborates how illogical it is. Furthermore, conflicting morality shows that one set of morals is better than the other. There are better ways to make moral decisions that are logical and properly take others into account. Thank you.